Welcome to episode 125 of Stageworthy. I'm your host, Phil Rickaby. Stageworthy is a podcast about people in Canadian theatre featuring conversations with actors, directors, playwrights, and more. You know, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, I would like to remind you again that subscribing is the best way to make sure that you never miss an episode of Stageworthy, and subscribing is easy. Just go to Apple Podcasts or Google Music and search for Stageworthy and click on the subscribe button. You know, you can also find links to the show at Google and Apple on the Stageworthy website, and that'll take you right to the place where you can click on that subscribe button. And that'll make sure that you will never miss an episode of Stageworthy because it'll come right to your phone. If you want to drop me a line, I would love to hear from you. You can find Stageworthy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StageworthyPod, and you can find the website at stageworthypodcast.com. And if you want to drop me a line, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Phil Rickaby, and my website is philrickaby.com. My guests are Anne and David Powell, founders of the internationally renowned Puppetmongers, as well as the Toronto School of Puppetry, which presents the Fresh Ideas in Puppetry Day on Sunday, May 27th, as well as the 2-week Puppetry Intensive in June. And you can find details at torontoschoolofpuppetry.com. How long has Puppetmongers been in existence?
42 years.
42 years. So how did you...
Was it 42? It's from 1970?
Oh, 43. We're into our 43rd year now. It's 1974. Okay. December
that I've been trying to
1974.
figure out recently because we graduated from the art school in 72.
That was a year before you, 2 years before you.
When did you graduate?
69. No, you were not 72. I went there in 69 to 77, 1, 72, 73 I graduated, 74 I finished, 75 you finished.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
So when
We're brother and sister, so we do that a lot.
Okay, well, that's
You got it.
My brother and sister, they probably would have been a little more bickering.
Yeah.
We do that too. We just
Hidden undercurrents, perhaps.
Sure. So, start like 40. You're in your 43rd year.
Yes.
So you said that you went to the art school. What art school did you go to?
Ontario College of
Art. And
when it was simply OCA.
When it was OCA, before
Yes.
it was like
Everything else.
art and design and everything.
Yes.
We had art and design.
No, it was OCA.
It wasn't part of the name.
Yes, then art design, then university.
Yes.
College of
Gotcha.
University. Anyway.
And whatever it is now, because now it's a university.
Yes.
I don't know why I put air quotes around that. I'm sorry, artists.
all
I'm sorry,
right.
artists. I'm terrible. So what were you studying at OCA?
I went there because I was really interested in illustration.
Okay.
And I did some of that, but I was really interested in whatever else was going on in the college. Got working in the basement and the wood shop and the plastic shop and everything. Yeah.
And I went there because it sounded like fun. I got to McGill to go into architecture the year before, and it was in Quebec, and they were doing Cégep for the first year, and Cégep was attached to the university. And it meant that I was in the same building as the engineering, which you had to do before you could get to architecture. And I looked at what the architecture department was doing, and didn't like it at all. So I looked at what Anne was doing, thought, that looks better. Yep. So I came a year after Anne to the OAC.
Okay.
And intending just to do generally things. That was the year that Roy Ascot came in as the president. And broke down all the differences between departments. You could be before that. If you were in sculpture, you could not go and cut a piece of wood.
Oh, really?
Oh no!
Yeah,
if you were in drawing and painting, forget it. That's all you're doing. Anyway, so he came and broke down the departments very nicely, and I came in and became a generalist. And by the end of that year, the school had given us a room because they really liked the puppet stuff we were doing.
So how did you start doing puppets?
I go back to our childhood.
Okay.
Yeah. I like to say our parents made the mistake of giving me a string puppet for Christmas one year when I was 8. And we both thought, those are cool. And we both spent our Christmas money on another puppet each. This particular company was making them Pelham puppets, making really good puppets for kids to use. And we started collecting more, birthdays and stuff, that's what we'd asked for. And then couldn't get the characters we wanted, so started making our own eventually as teenagers. Dad always made us a stage out of an old table wherever we lived. We moved a lot, we were in the army. So it was just always an interest. But then for post-secondary education, neither of us thought, well, let's go and learn about puppetry. Thought, now we have to be grown up. What are we going to do as adults now? and so we followed other interests kind of thing. But then just came back to it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's all this wonderful wood cutting equipment,
Yeah.
and all sorts of fun stuff. Yeah, and during our time at the OCA, yes, thank you. We did do a lot of marionette stuff because that's where we came from.
Yeah.
And then, in one of the rooms they'd given us, we had a long string with all these marionettes, about 50-odd marionettes hanging on it, and the string broke.
One end,
and the puppets became one continuous tangle, all with each other. And we managed to rescue a few from it, and many of them we just cut the strings off. And it was round about then we thought, why do we have these strings in the way? We could just hold the dummies and manipulate them. So we have not really done marionettes ever since.
So you've been doing puppetry with things that don't necessarily need a string, where you can actually see the hand of the.
Oh, we're on stage with our puppets every show. It's so much easier. If something goes wrrong, you're right there.
Right.
It also does a number of other things.
Yes, it does.
Quite often we have kids after a show say, how did that particular character go across to there? And I say, well, I walked them. And they say, no, you were over there. What we're almost acting like is like we're a follow spot.
Yeah,
Sure.
A human follow spot without a follow spot.
Yeah.
But it's bringing the attention to the puppet.
And this is a technique of you're there when you want the audience to be there, to be seen, and then you can disappear behind with the puppets because you want the audience's focus on the puppet.
The focus goes to the puppet.
Yeah.
And is this stuff that you learned yourselves, or did somebody teach you this?
No, we just sort of figured it out, oddly enough. When we were first doing it back then in the 70s, a lot of puppeteers and people saying, well, that's not puppetry, we can see the puppeteers. It was very new for a lot of people. I think it was probably more happening in Europe, but we didn't know what was happening there.
No.
So it was just chance, that we just found that a better way for us to be performing. It was on stage with what we had.
I've seen more of that sort of thing recently.
Yeah. Oh Lord, sorry.
That's all right. Ingrid Hansen's Snafu dance with Little Orange Man.
Yes.
She does a lot of found puppetry.
Yes,
so
she
you can
does.
always
Yes.
see her.
Yeah.
Eric with Eldritch Theatre, his puppets,
yes.
except if they're specifically historical. A lot of stuff he does, he's right there on stage. So there's a lot more of that.
Yes,
now.
there is. Yes, it's much more.
And so you guys were sort of, if not pioneering because it was happening in Europe, as far as you knew, you were pioneering.
Yeah, we hadn't seen a lot of that here. It just felt comfortable to us to do that. Yeah.
Here's a funny pioneering thing. One of the shows we built back in the 70s was a circus of performing building bricks. The idea came from hanging around with some friends one night, and one was a puppeteer from the States, and we started complaining about shows we'd seen at festivals where someone's got a marionette of a skater and is skating backwards, and well, yeah, of course, it's a pendulum. That's all it's doing. The audience are going, ooh. Anyway, the idea, you could have a brick on those strings. Right. It was a nice idea. And what else could bricks do? We spent the night having a laughing laugh about bricks doing circus acts. And then a few months later, we'd forgotten about it, and we got a postcard from our friend who'd gone back to California. It says, my brick circus opens next week, where's yours? So we built a brick circus that went on. That was Steve Hansen was his name. He did his show maybe a couple of times. It was rather bulky. But we made one little touring show. We've taken it all over the place.
We still do it.
Yes. Anyway, so what I was going to say was something to do with... Oh, yes, we took it to France, the big puppet festival in Chalvel-Mézières. And there was a company from Israel and a company from Spain performing with kitchen gadgets. And there's a company from France also using kitchen stuff, but in a very different way. And we had our bricks, and it was the first time, really, that object theatre.
So again, that was something happening in Europe that we were totally unaware of, but we just sort of picked up something in the air.
Yes, and so object theatre is now something you can get a master's degree in Belgium.
I mean, Ingrid will teach you a course in...
She's taught right here as part of our School of Puppetry.
School of Puppetry, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny how these things just sort of like sit in the ether and then you just sort of like give them out in like different places.
Yes.
Yeah, I always loved that theory called the 100th monkey, which they've said is totally false. But supposedly, in Japan, they were observing the activities of the those snow monkeys, who really like yams, and the investigative people were burying them in the beach for the monkeys, and the monkeys would have to spend a lot trying to get the sand off them because it's really unpleasant eating the sandy thing. And then one morning, one of the little monkeys picked up his thing, and before he got washed his hand off, he thought about going for a swim, and he walked in sort of like he'd forgotten holding his thingy. Got washed in the sea, got a little salt. He thought it was great. He showed his mother, and then the kids all learned about it and showed their parents. So that was happening in that community. And the 100th monkey of it was that round about when 100 monkeys in that community did it, all the communities across Japan were doing it. Like, but anyway, it's actually a folk legend. But it's a wonderful story.
Sure. It's a great story.
It does seem to be how things happen.
It does,
Yeah,
actually.
it does.
I was working with a company called Keystone Theatre, and we did plays in the style of silent film. And we found out that we were the only ones in Canada doing it, but there was another company that was also obsessed with silent film in the States somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's somebody in Israel who's also done something
Sure.
similar.
Of course.
Japan.
Japan, well, absolutely. We actually got to see some incredible physical theater from Japan that was obviously influenced by silent film.
Yeah.
It's all out there.
Yeah.
So when you guys were, you were starting to do the puppets without the strings, and people were sort of like, I don't know if objecting to that as puppetry was the right word, but
There are still people who object to that.
That's not really a puppet show.
I can see you.
But when we first took that show to a festival of puppeteers in America, the first show that we built with this style, a lot of people came back to see it the second time we had to booking, because they thought that we were improvising and it wasn't actually a script.
Also because at that time a lot of puppetry was done in a very sort of melodramatic Shakespearean kind of way. A lot of what ended up at festivals. And we were very sort of casual, brother-sisterish sort of stuff going on. They thought we were just making up as we went along, as David says. And then they came back the second time. It was exactly the same. Movement for movement, word for word. They couldn't believe it. It was a totally new style to them.
When we took the Brick Circus to a similar festival, in those days they used to have a panel discussion every morning about the shows that had been on the day before. Anyway, and there was people in the panel saying, but it's not puppetry, about the bricks. And a very famous American marionette artist said, I don't care if it's puppets or not. It was damn amusing.
Well, what's interesting is, the people who are saying, well, it's not puppetry,
Does it matter?
did they watch the whole show? And are they just seeing, these people hold the puppets and they haven't seen it? Because, like you mentioned, when you show it to the kids, you're like, but you didn't get that guy from over there. You're over there because they don't see you anymore.
That's right. That's right. No, I find when people say that kind of stuff to us, they're deciding for us what's puppetry or not.
Sure.
That's really cool. Where did you study?
Well, more than just where did you study?
You're telling me.
Who are you?
Yeah, to be pronouncing this.
Is this really cheese?
Well, that's. It's sort of like people who are like, well, I don't know if that's theater.
There you go. Yeah.
We used to get a couple of people would be like, they'd say the Keystone Theatre stuff. Since we don't talk, they'd be like, well,
that's not
is it
theater.
a play if there's no dialogue?
That's
We'd
right.
Be like, I don't know. Did you
like it?
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
So when you guys started doing this, and so you exclusively do stuff yourself. You have strings. You're always seen when you're
Always seen.
Always seen, yes.
There's one show. Well, we did. We went and performed in Iran back in the mid-70s, and when we came back, we built a show about what we'd seen using an old folktale, and to make it to suit that, we went for a style actually based on a Sicilian type of marionette that has metal rods out the head and strings for the hands, etc.
But we still perform on stage with them, which is not the tradition. We get very short rods and we're walking around with them on the carpet.
Other than that, it's always been a hands-on thing. But what was your question? I've forgotten already.
It doesn't even matter.
Okay.
When you're
basic tabletop. Yeah.
when you're do you set up? Do you have a set? Do you have a table?
Every show is a
every
very different setup.
Yeah. Basically, we sort of start with a story. Okay, what's the best puppetry to tell this story? Huge variety. I built a solo show that's now a duo. It's a big doll's house. It's quite shallow. The front is two sliding doors at the front of the facade of the house. You can open one or both or whatever. And there's 4 floors and little tiny puppets about 7 inches tall. So it's an up and stairs down. There's no back on it. So you can sort of see me, but I disappear when I want to disappear. I'm the housekeeper. I can be in the scene or not.
Sometimes this huge face sticks in.
Yes, Your Majesty. And so these little people running up and down the stairs and out of the rooms, little lights.
That's the show we're going to be doing next Christmas holiday, winter holiday at
the Tarragon
Theatre.
Yeah, for family audiences.
It's Many, many years we've been
Yes,
doing.
and it's David, and then
shows
as Dave said, the Iranian-based story, which we perform on a carpet, so they're floor-based. So we need a
Most
stage for that.
things we've found floor is not so good because sight lines are
Sightlines.
tricky in many places.
Sure.
So most other shows are sort of tabletop
Yes.
height.
And it's also that, we're still doing shows we built in our relative youth. So every time you get out to rehearse it, oh, this requires bending, doesn't it? Or kneeling down and getting up quickly. Oh.
Yeah. Do you have puppets that are favorites of yours, or shows that are favorites of yours?
I
that you like
often
coming
ask
back
that. I always find I might have a puppet I like, but it's all about what the audience is responding to. And then that becomes a really fun one to do because you're getting the response from the audience. The audience is such a big part of performing. You know that.
Yeah.
It's this triangle for puppeteers. Yeah.
So, I know you were asking about different types of puppets. Other shows, we've done 3 shows, I think it is, so far that were for adult audiences. Not like Naughty Naughty, but Charles Dickens' Hard Times, for instance.
Sure.
Dark.
And for that one, you know the Victorian cartoon style where the head is huge, a little tiny body?
Yes.
You're like Happy Families?
Yes.
We went for that idea. The puppets have human-sized heads. So, and they're the little glove puppets with legs and stuff, so they're bigger than a glove puppet. But the human-sized head was because for several characters we had a mask that was the same face, or half mask, that we could wear so we could become the same character.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes there were some scenes when it was better for us to play them than for that. And
that becomes easier for the audience to sort of accept because at least you've got the same scale.
Sure.
Well, the body might not be, but it's very recognisable. That's that character.
and it was
rather
very
than
Victorian
change.
looking. It
Yes.
suited.
Sure.
We worked with a third performer, Anand Rajaram.
Yeah.
He's a really great actor. Came in, he's a fabulous puppeteer too. And that was a fun one. So every show is very different. And for that one, the set was 2 doorways with windows up above and laundry line in between, filling a whole stage. It was a very theatrical piece.
Well, the laundry, there wasn't a laundry, it was a shadow screen.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That we could use or have open.
Yeah, so every show looks very, very different.
So when did you start teaching puppetry?
Well, we've been teaching in schools almost since the beginning, since the
Okay.
early 70s.
Every now and then we get a gig at a university or something.
Yeah.
But then in the mid-90s, we suddenly realized, look, there's our company, and there was Lampoon Puppet Theatre, which started a few years before us, and Frog Print started a few years before that, but they quit or moved out of the country or something. And where are the other companies? We've been around since the 70s, and this is the 90s. Where are the young companies here? And there weren't any. And we thought, well, maybe we should offer some classes and see if people's interested. And it came from that, really.
Okay.
And started the School of Puppetry.
Wow.
Yeah. So initially, I think pretty well we were teaching the classes ourselves, but over the years we've invited other puppeteers whose work we really like and respect. You know, if they would like to come in and teach something too, things that we don't know enough about. So,
Well, there's so many different things in the air.
Of course, different
Absolutely.
ideas, different attitudes,
Yeah, so
approaches.
what
puppetry.
we really have never really got into was the Muppet style puppets. And so there's a number of people here who are really good at teaching how to use those and how to bring them
Yes.
alive and things of that nature.
I mean, generally, I'm always. Being a child of the '70s and growing up with the Muppets, both on Sesame Street and the Muppet Show, I have a real fondness for puppets, especially the Henson style Muppet. But generally, the magic of puppetry, the way that things come alive, things that are not alive seem alive.
Yeah.
The illusion of thought, it's often called.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a different one. There's another one is the God, my brain's just lost. What's it?
It'll come back to you.
Emil. Suppression of something to do with disbelief.
Suspension of disbelief.
Suspension of disbelief.
That's for the audience's part, yes.
Yeah.
But the
Where
illusion of thought is for
they
the
know it's a
puppets.
person holding something,
Yes.
Yeah.
but they remove that
Yeah.
disbelief and believe in
Yeah.
it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I've seen video of people faced with Muppets and the puppeteer right there, and
Yes.
they never look at the puppeteer.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
yes.
They always just look at the
Yeah.
at the Muppet itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is like a real magical
Yes.
thing.
And the other interesting thing about puppets is they're very often made specifically to be a particular character. They're not actors learning lines and taking on a role.
Sure.
So when you go, you're not saying, "Oh, well, I've seen that guy in a movie," or he's playing the same part, or whatever, or she. And in fact, somebody pointed out that when you go to theatre, often there's a lot of artifice in terms of the costumes and the set.
Sure.
But then there are humans. But with the puppets, it's all artifice.
Sure. Yeah.
But that works. It takes you in so much faster.
Oh, sure.
into your imagination and suspending disbelief.
Yeah.
We met a man when we were in the Festival of Europe one time who said, I used to always go to theatre, but you know, gravity makes it always pretty much the same visually. And then he started looking at puppet theatre, and you never have any idea what you're going to see. The setup could be so different, and they don't have to deal with gravity the same way. I mean, gravity is a huge part of puppetry, but the puppets can look like they're flying and floating or whatever.
Change scale. There's all so much you can do in a small space.
Yeah.
Then they'll walk on the floor.
Do you guys do you build all of your puppets here?
Yeah.
Yeah. For own sets. Yeah. Mind you, the show we were just doing, actually, just in Stratford, a lot of the puppets are kitchen implements.
Okay.
They're things stuffed toys we picked up at Value Village. So we're animating a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
It's for 4 to 10-year-olds and their families. So it's really, it's a really fun show, and it's very silly, and it's really fun working with all that stuff. But it also really encourages kids. You know what? You can go home and do a show with anything. Just animate anything around the house. Just avoid the sharp knives. Yeah.
When you're developing something like that, where you're animating everyday objects and things that you find in the store, are you, while you're working on the show, or before you even started, are you walking around like just picking up everything and seeing what you can do with it, or do you know what you need before you find it?
To some extent, it's play. There is playtime, definitely. Well, often actually, even when we're first developing a show, we won't first of all think about what the puppets are and build something. We'll work with anything that's around the room to stand in for something.
It's almost like we're working on the staging before we got to the puppet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And in the other part, we don't start with the script. We storyboard our ideas many times as things change. There's one over there on the wall. The script is the last thing that gets written down in rehearsal, or bits and pieces as we go along, as we have to find the dialogue. Because again, it's part of the puppets are built to be the characters they are, and then we have to get to know them, find out how they're going to express themselves, how they're going to get themselves through the story. So they sort of help us find their language.
So when you're developing your story, what does come first?
Finding the story.
Okay. So
deciding what to do with it.
So the story comes first always?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then everything gets turned around that. What do we want to do with it? Do we want to change it at all?
So the one on the wall there is How to the Baskervilles.
Okay.
It's the one we're working on.
Huh.
It takes us 2 or 3 years to build a show. In fact, in Quebec, there's a lot of puppeteers, and they sponsored a study that came to the conclusion that puppetry takes twice as long as regular theatre to create, because you are building the characters and you're trying them out, and then you're going back to make adjustments to make them work better. You're redeveloping, you're rebuilding new ones because those didn't quite work for that scene. It just takes a long time. It's not like we spent 2-3 years solidly, that's what we're doing.
No.
It's like, this really useful is to do a bit of work, go away, do something entirely different in the back of your brain. Your reptile is still working on it. And come back and you've got all these other new ideas. Yeah. So we've been mucking around with all sorts of thoughts for this one. And what we've come up with, we're going to play with in a week or so, is a mini cam built into Dr. Watson. So we have a miniature show and a projection. Whatever Dr. Watson can see is up on the wall.
Wow.
Because that's the way the book's written.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, because with little puppets, how can you really get the effect of the more?
No,
well, we have a little
course.
tabletop with a blanket and lumpy bits, but up there, from his point of view, it's the more.
Yeah. Wow.
From seeing down inside it.
It's going to be fun playing with that one.
So that's where we're at the moment. Who knows where it'll go from here?
When you guys were starting out developing puppets and storytelling and things like that, where did you always start from story, or did you start from puppet?
No, I think we've always started from story.
The only one that wouldn't have been a story was the Circus.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And one time, we were at Young People's Theatre, they wanted a slightly longer show, and so we developed sort of a little bit of backstage of the what was going on between the characters backstage, the romances and the jealousies. It didn't work.
No.
Didn't need it.
It doesn't need it.
Did you find out that it didn't need it while performing it, or did you know before you...
Basically, we learned, we sort of had a hunch.
Sense that it wasn't going to, but, had to fill the time, sort of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily.
Yeah, so didn't do it for very long. Back to basics.
So, I mean, you're working with all kinds of, different kinds of puppets for every show.
Yeah.
All of which started initially with the string puppet that you got when you were children.
Kids, yeah.
Yes.
And is there a kind of puppet that you have yet to tackle that
I was saying we'd never really got into the Muppets. I've taken the workshops that have been offered here a couple of times, and I'm not very good at it. I don't like doing mouth sync. Why do I want to do mouth sync? You know?
It really is a lot of hard work, and that becomes the focus.
Yeah.
Oh, are they doing it well or not? Rather than the story that's being told. Yeah. Closest we've got is hand puppets, we've used in the one show that David mentioned, the adult show.
Yeah.
Every time we've used them.
And they were often we had sticks on stands so we could actually line them up, put them on stands and have them all lined up so they become tabletop puppets. And then you could put your hand in to do this or take the mask and go up. They changed a lot during the show. Done a little bit with shadow work. Do a lot of workshops on shadow because there was an amazing show came through here some years back. It was at the Children's Festival. It was Sanjata, and a story from Mali, and it was performed by Malinese people, but it had been
with a French company.
A French company had sort of worked in Mali with these people telling their classic story, and it was done with these halogen-sourced light bulbs, which are so different from your usual shadow puppet light bulb that it was just stunning what the effects they could do. So we've been playing with that, and we've put that type of shadow work into a couple of shows now. For instance, we did a show about piracy in China in the early 1800s, and there was a scene we wanted to show. We'd be showing it from the pirate side. We wanted to say, well, they're not really that nice to the population, you know. And so we wanted to show some nasty things happening. So what we did was we set it up where we came out facing away from the audience and projecting on the back wall above them. So behind the wall back at the stage, so they could see two little old folks sitting on the floor with these little cardboard cutouts and a lamp, and at the same time they were seeing the images, these horrible stuff, these huge images on the wall. So it sort of gave it a grounding.
Sure.
Yeah.
What is it about the halogen lamp that's so different?
Okay, it's sort of like having a sun in your hand.
Okay.
The shadow, your hand and the sun, and your shadow of your hand is on the ground. It's still there. So with the halogen lamp. With a regular lamp, you have to have the puppet right up against the cloth of the screen. If it comes off, it goes out of focus. Right. So here, you take it off the screen, it just gets bigger the nearer the lamp it goes.
Oh, okay.
So you can play with scale, and you can do overlaps and layers and all sorts of funky.
Cut from scene to scene, almost in a filmic kind of way.
Yeah,
yeah.
wow.
It's quite
In the hard times, we actually had a setup backstage where there were some mechanical things, where we could switch, and the technician would turn the light on back then, and we would have projections of things like a circus going on that was actually a mechanical circus being projected while we were up front doing other things. Yeah, so there's all sorts of things. Oh, and we did a Scots Ballad one time, Ballad of Tam Lin, and a 12-foot semicircular sort of scrim behind us, and behind it we'd set up some big cutout shadow puppets, and behind that the halogen lamps on like as pendulums. And there was a moment during the show where Anne runs around the backstage and swings them all. They're not on yet. He comes out front, and then we're doing stuff up front. The lights get turned on by the stage manager, and suddenly the whole back screen is all these huge shadows all crisscrossing and overweight and all moving because the lights were swinging.
Oh.
So it was this amazing horseman, crazy demon horseman all over the back. Great effect.
Wow.
So we like them.
Yeah. So, I mean, when was it that you started playing with those? Like, how long ago?
When was that?
Oh my goodness. Back in the midst of time.
Yeah.
Whichever children's festival that company came to. Yeah, maybe 15 years ago or so.
At least.
Maybe, at least, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
A while.
A while, yes, let's say a while.
When you guys are teaching puppetry, you teach to both adults and children.
The School of Puppetry is adults.
Okay.
And, well,
Children, we go into the schools
into
to
the
teach.
schools.
Yeah.
What is the difference between the way that adults approach puppetry and the way that children approach puppetry?
In some ways, very similarly, actually. And I find it really fun actually teaching teachers because they think they're going to come in with their notebooks and take notes. But we're just basically going to run the class as though it's full of grade 6 or 8 kids or something. They're going to do stuff. They're going to do exactly what the kids would do in the classroom.
Yeah.
And have a lot of fun doing it.
And they do.
They bring different skills, more mature skills to it. Yeah. I mean, another difference, of course, when we go to the school, you have a whole class. So you have to be very organized, something that a lot of people can be doing at the same time, whereas here we might have 6 people or something.
Yeah, our classes tend to be quite small.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah,
and so,
very nice.
so adults, like, are adults more resistant to some of the things? Do they like?
They've chosen to be here.
Yes.
That's true. That's true.
As opposed to school kids.
Yes.
But school kids, you come in and say, we're doing puppets, and they go, woo!
Yeah, no problem there. Yes.
Is it hard to keep school kids under control?
Not really, no.
Okay.
You know, don't run with the scissors, Johnny. Keep your hands out of the hot glue.
I
Are
think
you
both of
making
us-
puppets with them, or you do?
Yeah,
Usually, no, the kids are
they
making
bring-
puppets
they
from
make
their own
stuff.
shows together.
Yeah.
Mostly what we're interested in when we go to school is that the kids will actually be producing shows.
Okay.
And making puppets is, well, what do you do with them? Put them in the window? I don't know.
Yeah.
Make a show.
That's what puppets are for. So
Yeah.
we keep
So
making
we've
some really simple
developed,
stuff.
for the schools, we've developed a number of workshops where the puppets are very simple, so they can have the time in the classroom to actually put the shows together.
And also with simple materials that they could go home and make puppets themselves.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Without
always a good
being
idea.
a big problem. Really encouraging them to do that.
Do both children and adults have the same preconceived notion about what puppetry is?
That's an interesting question. When we're performing, we find not so much anymore, but certainly it's more of the adults of this isn't puppetry. The kids are fine. You know, somebody's telling me a story, great. But it's the adults who are more particular about
But in
that.
workshops, I don't know if there's any big difference.
Yeah. Seem to attract people who simply are wanting to explore more some
Yeah.
specific aspect or want to know more about puppetry. So,
It's not just people who are interested in puppetry, like we have
Yeah.
dancers come and
yeah,
you know,
theatre people.
filmmakers, and people who just want to learn about some other uses, other presentation
add to their
methods.
own artistic practices.
Interesting. Have you found that there's been resistance to the idea of puppetry as art from the arts world at large, or is it
Interesting.
more?
Well, there's been a resurgence recently anyway with some of the big shows, you know, Warhorse and Cute. So there's more of an awareness of how puppetry can be integrated into things. On the other hand, talking to somebody, a friend of ours who makes puppets quite often in a theatre, and they're called props. They're not seen as actors in the show.
Well,
And that,
you're
I think,
making the actors.
yes, yes, and that's then reflected often in the manipulation because nobody thinks to bring in somebody to train manipulation.
No.
I've had to use these props,
Right.
and it's obvious.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem.
I know of someone who's felt like their work isn't respected because it's just dolly wiggling.
Oh yes, there's a company in Calgary called the Dolly Wigglers.
No.
Yes.
That's
not a
amazing.
company.
Oh, it's the
a
cabaret,
festival.
sorry,
The cabaret.
yes.
The Dollar Wiggers
Yes.
Cabaret.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I guess she got told off once.
Must have. Yeah.
Our name Puppetmongers came because I had a friend and I was endlessly talking about puppetry ideas, and one time he said, "Shut up, you puppetmonger." Oh, thank you.
Who was that?
Had you not had a name until
We
that
did.
point?
We were called the Bubonic Players.
Oh.
We thought we'd be infectious.
Didn't catch on.
No, didn't go
No.
infectious.
No.
Didn't last long.
No. But Puppetmongers is a more attractive name.
Absolutely.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
So, like, in terms of like the resistance, have you found critically that people are accepting of it more?
Well, it's
or-
very interesting. The same critics who will see our performances for family audiences love what we do. Lovely, warm, glowing reviews. And then they'll come and see our adult stuff and they'll write so differently about our adult shows.
Really?
Yes. I don't know what they're expecting.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking of
Maybe-
some of the reviews of some of the
Maybe that's
adult shows we've done.
more severe for adults.
Obviously, on the other hand, I know that the family shows we're doing are often shows we're really familiar with.
That's
So they
probably
just
what
go
it is.
so smoothly.
Because we've taught and taught and taught before
because you
the
can have a
reviewer gets to
family
see
show
it.
in the schools or wherever. Whereas an adult show, you rehearse, you're ready, you're in the theatre. That's
Yes,
it.
yeah.
And that's what they're seeing.
Do they? I mean, do those not run as often? Is there
The
less
adult
demand
ones,
for
no.
those?
They're usually a one-time a run,
We've never been able to figure out any kind of a further touring. Yeah.
much as we liked.
Yes.
Well, I guess that. I mean, that is the stigma about puppets. Is I think people think children.
Yes.
But we always build shows to entertain ourselves. And then we find out what audience works for. We find we are unable to make shows for little kids.
There are people who are brilliant at
Oh, we've
it.
seen some fabulous ones. I mean, one show came to the Children's Festival one time, and it was a cupboard with little doors that open and things. And in one of them, there was two little, the sand castles you make with a bucket. Just two very simple ones of those. And some water dripped on it, and you watch them get washed away. That was the whole scene.
There's this little rubber shoe sitting beside them as they
Anyway,
washed away.
it was absolutely beautiful. The kids are totally mesmerized. We've never thought of how to do that sort of a show. That was part of the show. It made sense in the story. But,
Sure.
It was little bits of the story, just a scene by scene by scene in this cupboard. Yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
yeah. And we've seen others that have been very effective too. Yeah.
But it's interesting that the reaction critically is so different.
It's not that they don't like our older shows, adult shows.
Some haven't.
Some haven't.
Oh, and I mean, the funniest one was some guy who wrote about our fake English accents. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
When we go to England, they say, "Where in America did you come from?"
Yes, of course they do. Of course they do.
You've been here since what was it, 60 somewhere.
68 we moved here. Yeah.
With the adult shows, and you're working them like over like 2 years, 3 years to get them there, and then you're in the theater performing them.
Yep.
What do you learn the first time an audience sees that show?
What works and what doesn't.
I guess.
It's not like you go away and change the whole lot, but you know what maybe needs a little tweaking or whatever.
Yeah. Sure.
Sure.
I don't really.
But that's the same with any show, whoever the audience is.
Yeah.
Do you have the time to tweak it at that point?
By then, it's not usually mechanical tweaking that's required. It's staging of
Performance scripting. Or
way scripting.
Yeah.
And
And that's the nice thing about not having started with the script, that the script has been part of the organic growth. It's very easy to revisit it, and do changes.
Yeah.
Well, sort of a tricky thing for us in hard times, it was Dickens. It had to be Dickens' language. And
Straight from the book.
our other shows had all been organically, the puppets basically came up and told us what they wanted to say.
Sure. Was that actually difficult to do? Because since you're used to having the puppets tell you what they want to say, did you find puppets saying things they didn't necessarily want to say?
No, I think we managed to control them.
But they were certainly having to learn lines, which
Sure.
they hadn't done before,
Yes.
so they weren't quite allowed to be themselves on stage. Yeah.
There's a wonderful story from, it's actually from legal records from 1600s of a puppeteer was taken before a judge because a punch puppet had said some uncouth things of some form. And the punchman's defense was, I can't control what he's saying. And the judge said, yeah, I understand. No charge. Bang.
Nice. But I mean, have you guys like as part of what you've done researching the history of puppetry as well?
We've done a lot of research.
We have quite a collection of puppets from around the world also, partly from our travels, or sometimes right here in town we'll find a store and they've no idea what they've got. Yeah, right, $25 and it's something, really lovely.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really cool.
One of the best stories for that was there used to be an Chinese antique store in Yorkville, and it had some dolls that I'm looking at, the Chinese dolls from early 1900s, and I'm looking at them and I noticed they have a little ring on their wrist. On each wrist, and in the middle of the back there's
a little tube
in the middle of the back, and I thought that's for some controls. And then it reminded me that down in Chinatown and Spadina I had seen some more recently made dolls that were very similar proportions and shapes, so I went and had a look, and they had them too. And so I bought them and did some research and found out a type of puppetry that had developed in China in about 1900 and died by the...
No, it's 1850, 1950.
That's right, the 100-year span. Yeah. There are still a few people doing it, but it had been very popular in that time. The puppets are horizontal rods. So there's a rod into the middle of the back, and then rods from each arm going straight back. And the theatre was a little booth with bamboo screening arranged so you could see through, the performer could see through onto the stage, and the rods came in from the sides or the backs. And they did a type of opera. Anyway, so that was something we discovered. And then we used some of that idea when we did the show about Chinese piracy. We had some horizontal rod puppets.
When you
See, this is why the guy said, shut up, you puppet monger.
Well, no, I'm fascinated. Because when you're finding that, like, how are you learning this style that's basically been dead?
Oh, we went to do some research.
Yeah, we've got quite a library of puppetry books here too, and you can also go online and find stuff.
Or you contact someone who knows a lot about that stuff.
We know people.
Oh, you know.
We know people.
Okay. there's people you know in the puppet world.
Yes. Oh, yeah, the puppet mafia.
The puppet mafia. If that's not a name for a theater company, I don't know what is.
Yeah, really. And they don't do any puppets?
No, nothing.
They just get paid by the puppeteer.
No, there's as you were saying, you've you've explored a whole lot of different styles of puppetry.
Yeah.
And you don't particularly have a favorite. Is there? Like, I can't even remember if I've asked this. I'm just like so lost in this conversation. No. I'm enjoying it. That there's stuff that you haven't had a chance to work with yet?
I don't think we'd go at it that way. Well, what kind of puppetry should we try next? Again, we go back to, we start with the story. What's the puppetry that is going to suit the story? Is it a style or a mix of styles for different parts of the story? What's going to tell the story for the audience, to the audience?
And do you start researching at that point, or do you get a feel for what it might be?
It's all organic. It's sort of a bit of this, bit of that, bit of that. Just as it goes along.
Here's a
That's
little
why it takes us so
story.
long.
I often have weird mechanical ideas when I'm half awake in the morning. So one time I had this idea that I came in and made little things about a foot tall that work in a strange way and stand up on their own. It was mostly that they walk in different ways. And then some years later, Amari Schaefer had written an opera, and he wanted to have, 15 characters and 4 manipulators to be puppets doing it. And they had to be 5 foot tall or so, the puppets, to be seen, because he does big audiences. And so this thing I came up with that was a foot tall, we then played with that idea and came up with how to make similar idea, but bigger figures. And so it was an invention, and we've never used it since or before. But
It suited that particular setting.
Okay.
It really worked there.
But the thing of research, it's not just puppetry research when we're working on a show. It's historical research, it's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
We have a show called Tear the Past, which is 2 Russian folktales, which we set in medieval Russia. And a lot of our research was about the humor, about life, folk sayings, all kinds of stuff, to the point that when we were performing, we have once or twice had Russian people in the audience who come up afterwards speaking in Russian to us. Because we're so good at understanding. It's not that all our research goes in the show,
but
there's this sort of this depth to it.
Well, there's all the things that you need to know to understand the characters, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Just
the life they're living,
how they behave,
how
how
they
they
live.
speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How they relate to each other, the whole bit. Yeah.
As a brother and sister team, were there a lot of people feel that I love my brother, I love my sister, but I could not work with them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, what have you learned about working together that keeps you able to keep working together?
We live on opposite sides of town. We have a studio halfway between the two.
Okay.
We socialize quite a bit with families and
In
stuff.
fact, sometimes we find we're really at loggerheads about something, completely opposite point of view. We go overnight, come back the other day, we've switched.
We're still at loggerheads.
No, I see you. No, now we're arguing with the other side. Yeah.
The third day is when we see each other.
Yes.
Fine.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you just have you never had a contentious relationship together? Because I know my brother and I could get along, my sister and I could not.
Interesting. Isn't that interesting?
There's times when we become more and more annoyed with each other, and then we usually work it out.
Yeah.
Or
And it's often worse
just
when
let
we're
it go.
tired. We're just too busy and too darn tired. We need a break.
Do you, when that starts to happen, do you just separate and go and do your own thing in different places, or do you?
Well, luckily we do a lot of our own things anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
David's doing the gamelan through the TDSB, the World Music Program, for instance, and I do school workshops and stuff, and so at least we're doing that as well.
So you're not all completely up in each other.
5 days a week in here.
No.
No.
Lost in here every day.
No.
I do find any sort of computer work, laptop work, thinking stuff like that, I do. If it's stuff I can do by myself, I'll do it at home. David likes working here, but I find if we're both here, we distract each other. Tea time,
Yes,
or whatever,
yeah.
and we're telling each other stories, or come look at this, whatever. Yeah.
Do you have a workshop at home, or
No.
do you have just
an
a kitchen
office at
table?
home.
Well, I do have an office, but I work in my living room. I hate being on the computer, so I have my TV on, watching junk while I work.
When you were building that big doll's house, did you do it?
Oh, I've worked in various different places, different people's basements.
Okay.
Until and it was stacked in
We've
my
had
bathroom for a
many
while.
studios all across the centre of town here.
Being followed by condos.
Usually
Well,
they get
yeah.
confiscated.
Yeah.
We've just renewed the lease on this one for a few years, so we should be okay.
So hopefully this one doesn't get. I mean, you've
There's
got
no
the condos
talk.
across on all
Everywhere
sides
else.
here.
Oh,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
But there's also a railway track right at the back of the building,
Okay.
which makes it less attractive.
That is less attractive. So maybe you'll
Maybe you'll
stay
stay.
here for
And
a
the
while.
owner unless he sells, is not really interested in that.
Okay, well, that's good.
Touch wood.
Yeah.
And so you've had like various different spaces. What do you look for in a space when you
With this building, in fact, there was a difference in that almost all the spaces did not have windows. So we thought, we need windows.
Yeah, that's very important.
So
And water.
finally one came up.
And then the landlord was really nice to put in a sink for us,
Nice.
which wasn't here.
You have very nice hardwood floor.
It's a fake
comfy
hardwood
as well?
This is linoleum.
Okay.
Under here is concrete.
Okay.
And we're right over the loading bays, which are open all the time.
Okay.
So in the winter, that gets very, very cold and moist.
Oh.
And it
And
freezes.
icy
We've actually had
sometimes.
ice on it in the winter.
Incredibly
cold. Really?
When people are breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really hard
so
to work in
we
here.
went and talked to the landlord and said, we're a charity. Do you want to donate to us putting in an insulated floor? Yes, he did it. Good man.
So what it
Okay.
is, actually, you can buy these big chipboard squares, which have a molded plastic underneath.
Okay.
Usually used in
For the
people's
moisture to go.
basements.
And you lock them all together and then put linoleum on top. And
Well, all
a
right.
huge difference.
Yeah, we could use the place.
Well, that's good. You can use it in the winter, which,
Yeah.
Exactly.
which is good.
Yes, we have people who like renting the space and they wouldn't do it in the winter because it's cold.
Well, of course. But I mean, it looks like a good
Yes.
rehearsal floor.
It's a lovely floor.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I thought this was nicer than some of the fake tile looks. of the linoleum.
Yeah. Well, this feels
Good choice.
warmer. This feels like
Yeah.
warmer.
It's
than
wood,
the
it's
time.
warm, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plastic wood. Here's the scene.
It makes you feel warm because it looks like wood.
Sure.
It's an illusion.
So you're working on this Hound of the Baskerville
Yes.
thing, and how long has it been? 2 years?
Oh, no, well, very vague conversations. We've had maybe two times when we've had a week or 2 weeks to actually play with ideas. And then the last one was last fall sometime. And we've got another session a week or two coming up soon, but it keeps filling in with other things we have to do.
Yeah.
So we have to try and make sure that we've still got time in there.
Do you have a deadline for the show? Or is
No.
it still,
That's the
No.
nice thing. We don't give ourselves a time it has to be finished by.
Okay.
So we just delve into it and just take it, and then it's towards the end we start thinking, okay, I guess we've got to have a date.
Is there a point
Somewhere.
at which you find that adding a date is helpful? Like like saying, okay, so our date to be done is this, and then it's sort
Well,
of
as the show comes together, you get more of an idea of where it should be. And so that actually does become a deadline because, we've got to get into the theatre or whatever. But
It's
at
usually
this
frantic towards the end anyway,
Oh,
regardless.
always.
Yeah. Do you start to feel that the show is ready? Like, it's just sort of like an organic feeling that I think we're starting to get towards.
That's
where the
interesting because,
show-
for instance, with the show we did about the Chinese piracy, and we did a run at the Tarragon Extra Space, and it was towards the end of the show that it started. Okay, now it's starting to feel something.
I
Wish
think
we
you
could go
like
further,
this.
but you never can. There you go.
Okay, so because this is audio, we're
right,
gonna,
there you go.
this is a little thing that says the creative process. Number 1, this is awesome. Number 2, this is tricky. Number 3, this is shit. Number 4, I am shit. Number 5, this might be okay. And number 6, this is awesome. What I find interesting about this is we all go through this.
Yeah.
I think for people who dabble in artistry of some kind, they get stuck in number 4.
Yeah.
They go through this is shit to I am shit, and then they never
Don't
push
stop.
past it.
Yes.
And it takes a certain amount of artistic fortitude
Yes.
to keep. I mean, this really, I think every show I've ever worked on,
Yeah.
we go through this.
Many
Absolutely.
times.
We call it, I've referred to it as the wall. Okay, I really
Yes.
hit the wall on this
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
where nothing is working. I hate everything.
Yes.
And when you keep going until suddenly the wall breaks down, you're like,
Yes,
back
right.
to
Yes.
being something. But it is interesting that, like, having it put that way, I really appreciate that because
Like a copy of it?
I love a copy of it. That's gotta go on my wall.
We're trying to spread it around.
No, because that's
It's reassuring, though.
It is reassuring.
Isn't it? Not the
It's
only ones.
Absolutely, because, like I said, like so many times when you hit that point where you hit the this is shit, and you either stop there or I am shit, and you stop there, and it just becomes. Like, how do you move forward from
This
that?
is a reminder. It's going to be okay.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that you have to do that.
It gives you a timeline.
Yeah. When did you guys? I mean, when did you sort of realize that that's just the way it is?
Well, that particular sector test came off somewhere on the internet.
Just about a year ago.
Yeah. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
reassuring. But
It
I
is,
mean,
yeah.
you, as artists who've been doing this for you're in your 43 year of this. At some point, you must have come to the realization that it's going to be okay, even when we feel
Yeah.
like it's not.
Interesting. I find that as we get older and more experienced at what we do, we become more aware of this isn't going well. I think when you're youthful, that's great. It's going to be great, you know, and you just sort of go along with it and you're just having fun with it. That's how I experience it anyway.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because there's.
Our printer is not so great right now.
That's all right. It's no. It's
I think you can
there's something ethereal about the way that it's
Yeah, that's very good.
It's interesting the whole like when you say that like when you first show it to an audience you realize if it's working or if it's going to work. It's so reassuring to hear that because I've done so many things that I've created or been involved in creating.
Yeah.
And that first performance is just the first few moments of starting it. And like when you get to this is where we think the first laugh should be. You're just like biting your fingernails and is it going to happen? And then it doesn't. You start to think, okay, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine. It's so reassuring to hear that that happens with you as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We made a mistake once, just a couple of days before a show opened, of doing a sort of a workshop-y performance, inviting friends to give us feedback. And the feedback was so conflicting that we were really confused by the time the show opened. Should we be changing all this? Was it okay?
Well, I mean,
Shouldn't do it.
workshops and talkbacks are so difficult.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to
It's fine
design
with
your
kids.
show for you.
We love doing it with kids.
Well, kids will see things that you never thought.
Oh, the last
yeah.
question,
Yeah.
the best
yeah.
question ever. What other planets have you performed this
That
on?
was at the Brick. That's when we were doing the Brick Brothers Circus.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
They've never invited us. I'm sorry.
No. But the I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry, that's
no,
a good one.
It's
Talking about opening shows in front of audience, workshopping shows,
Yeah.
talkbacks, all that stuff.
workshops.
And
You got to
keep talkbacks.
Yeah, talkbacks especially. You have like I've done two kinds. I've done the kind where we have a facilitator who asks specific questions.
yes.
Yeah, that's the way.
We know what we think we want
Yes,
to know,
yes.
Yeah.
and we just stick to those
Yes.
questions.
Yeah.
And the open, well, what did you think? And I really dislike the open, well, what did you think?
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Because you got some assholes out there.
Well, not just assholes, like, because what? Three people in a room, given the opportunity to give their opinion,
Yeah. Could be
they
three
will.
conflicting ideas.
It will be
Yeah.
conflicting
They
because
should receive
what it
something
comes down
different.
to is, well, if I was writing this, I would do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Not how did I feel about this or how did I react to it. Which means that, like, for me, the ones that are helpful are the ones where we just, like, we know what we want to know and that's all we ask.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did a written version of that after Hard Times, didn't we? We had all these little notes of people.
Oh, that was the Pass Marai did one there.
Oh, okay.
Evenings.
We had questions.
Yeah. People could write down their responses, and questions and suggestions.
Yeah.
I've seen some production like some festivals that have like a little questionnaire. Do you like what do you want to say about this show? And it's always like a really open-ended question like
Okay.
that. I don't know if I ever want to see that feedback because
Yeah.
I don't know if it's helpful. Because
Well,
what I
yeah.
need to know, I probably learned from the audience reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
live.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why we don't like doing film and TV.
Oh, of course, because there's no.
Well, if there is, they have to film it again because
Yes,
the cameraman laughs. That's no good.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
No, that's really difficult. Obviously, those of us who perform in front of an audience get something out of it that we don't get in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Have you done in front of the camera?
We've done some bits. Yeah, we actually with the
Puppetry department.
Puppetry department for a movie, Mr. McGorham's Wonder Emporium.
Oh fuck yes, of course.
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman and
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
got to call in a bunch of friends to work puppets, and we got to help them build things and adjust things and work with the set. It was amazing work to do.
Well, that was a Terry Gilliam.
No, unfortunately it wasn't.
What's his name?
Oh no.
It was a
He's a writer, and I think that may be the only movie he's done.
Oh.
sort of
It's gonna
giving him a
bother me.
chance.
Right now,
Oh,
people who are
God.
listening to this podcast are shouting out
Oh, is this
whoever
live?
that is. No.
Oh,
but
good.
when they
No,
hear it,
it's
they're going to
recorded.
be shouting out
Yes.
who it is, and I can't think
Yes.
of it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably in
Yeah.
one of our
Yes.
resumes somewhere in the
He was a very nice guy.
Nice
No,
young guy.
see,
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Terry Gilliam film where he that's what I did that. That's something else.
Yes.
Yes. So is there? You've got. So you just came back from Stratford.
Yes.
Yep.
You're working on the Hound of the Baskervilles. You've got the School of Puppetry.
Yes, we've got an annual one-day festival event thing coming up.
Conference festival.
Yeah,
thing. Fresh Ideas in Puppetry Day.
And when is that?
May 27th.
May 27th.
And it's at the Aki Studio at the
Daniel Spector.
Daniel
Spector. Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely little studio.
Who's coming to that?
Well, we put out a call for people to propose, and what it's to do with the daytime is people talking about or show and telling about works in progress, ideas they've got,
Ideas they're
fresh
developing.
ideas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the evening is a series of short performance pieces of people's shows that they are working on or are very fresh or very new. The short segments.
That just sounds amazing.
So it's an opportunity for people trying something out with puppetry, whether they are in the puppetry community or just touching on the puppetry stuff, to put something in front of an audience or to talk about ideas, get some feedback.
Yeah, and there's a
from
lot
the
of
community.
discussion.
It's really exciting.
A good part of the day is
Yeah.
people out in the lobby chatting.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's partly why we like that
Is
space.
there just like open time for that? Like,
Well, we
between
allow
every
15 minutes between everything
so
during the
people can
day.
talk.
Yeah.
It's a
Lots of
scheduling
time.
thing.
sometimes if a conversation really starts going, 15 minutes is
No, no,
I know. But we've got so
then
much stuff happening.
Miss
as
the next
well.
show. Go outside. Take it
Well, I
outside,
mean,
boys.
that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what do I want to, like, this conversation is really good, but also
Yes.
there's this
Yeah,
thing over
yeah.
Talk to you
here.
later. Well, some people just stay out there and talk. They miss
Well,
the next
I mean,
thing,
if,
that's
it's,
okay.
if you're both getting something out of it, you might as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's happening.
Yeah.
What else is coming up for you guys?
We've got in June, we have a 2-week intensive we do here in the studio. The first week is sort of a general, all sorts of basic puppetry stuff.
Sort of short half-day workshops, kind of.
Yeah, and we bring in people to do specialist stuff like the sound playing with puppets or choreography and stuff. So we bring in different people to do that sort of stuff. And the second week is building on that. We choose something for a show development, and we spend the week developing, just workshopping a piece.
This is a very condensed process.
Yeah, showing how we
together.
would process it. And at the end of the second week, then there's a very short show and tell. They can invite friends over.
Very nice.
Yep. And the fun thing of it is, last year we had someone come up from Mexico. This time we got someone from South Africa, and
We had somebody one year from the Azores.
Yes,
They come from
nice.
all over.
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's great.
West Coast.
it's a small group, like, 6 people maybe,
Small space.
small space.
I mean,
Intense.
after a certain point, too many people
Oh, yeah.
can't get anything done.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too many brains again.
Too many brains.
Yes. I think, too, the way we like to teach is one-on-one. A lot
Sure.
of one-on-one. It's not we're standing here, now you do this and now you do that, giving direction.
Yeah.
It's,
It's
we
very
sort of
organic
suss
the
them
way
out
the show
what
is
they
developed.
wanting to learn.
Yeah.
How can we help them move forward with whatever it
Yeah,
is?
so the development, we found some story or something we like, and then it's totally organic within the group of how it develops and what it's going to be.
Yeah, we're not the directors.
And is everybody working together? On
Yeah,
this?
everyone works on one
yeah,
project,
yeah.
one
And then we usually
production.
bring in a director to work
Oh, yeah.
with us that week also.
Yeah,
Wow.
One of the people that we like.
because it's always good to have an outside eye.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much too. It's been fun.
Yeah.
This has been a Homebody Productions production.